Hey everybody, my name's Jenna. Welcome to my channel. I am doing book reviews for this playlist called Book Brain. Today I'm going to be reviewing The Death Cure by James Dashner. My last two videos I did The Maze Runner and The Scorched Trials, which are the books before this one. So if you want to check those videos out, I would suggest you do that before watching this one. I'm going to start with a quick overview of the book and my general opinion on it to start with, and then I'm going to go into a more detailed explanation of the book and talk about my opinions on it that way after, so that if you don't want spoilers, you can skip the more detailed version of it. So in general, I would say that this book was okay. It wasn't as good as The Maze Runner for sure. That one's definitely the best, and then they kind of go down like 10% in how good they are for each book, just because it's not as exciting as or mysterious as the Maze Runner book was. So this one is kind of more technical and trying to figure things out and escape, which is okay, but it wasn't really, I didn't find as interesting as the other ones, but overall it was still pretty good. I think it's important that you read it as part of the series. I'm just gonna jump into it. One thing I didn't like about this book is that it doesn't have the same mystery as The Maze Runner, and it doesn't have the same like new, exciting creepiness of The Scorched Trials, where they're like trying to get through the Scorch and there's all the cranks and things like that. It didn't really have any of that excitement adventure to it. It was more like figuring out problems, talking to people, trying to get places. Something always goes wrong, so it was kind of repetitive in that, you know, they're trying to do one thing and something always goes wrong. So in this part of the series, Tom and his friends are all trapped kind of with Wicked, and Thomas wakes up in this padded cell kind of, and then he stays there for like a whole month and somehow doesn't go totally crazy. But anyways, he then gets let out, and Jansen, who is kind of this guy that works for Wicked, he comes up and he's like, all right, this is the deal. There are some of you that are immune, some of you that aren't. Let's go take out your brain chips that'll let us control you, and you get your memories back. So then Thomas is like, okay, like whatever, I'll just like go meet up with my friends. So they go out there, they all meet up, and then they escape Wicked, and then they go on this big adventure to still try to figure out how they can take down Wicked and like have everything work out smoothly. Of course, they go through a big long journey trying to get through all these obstacles that are kind of frustrating because they're almost repetitive a bit, I find, just because it's like, okay, you gotta go to one place, and then you gotta go back to another place, and then you have to go over here, and then you get kidnapped, and then you get kidnapped again. So that was one thing that I didn't like, is that it just seemed to go in a one big circle sometimes, where it just takes so long to do anything. Overall, that's just a very brief overview of what happens, and it's still necessary to read this book. If you started the series, you've got to read to the end, because it all wraps up in the end, so that's good. And it has like a nice ending that isn't a total cliffhanger where it's like, and then anything could happen. It gives a general sense of what's going to happen next. Now I'm going to go into the more detailed version of the overview here. So if you don't want to have any spoilers, just come back when you've read the book. So after Thomas has been in the padded cell for 36 days, Jansen, who works for Wicked, comes in and tells them, this is your plan. We're doing how you had planned it when you worked for us. I don't know what the problem is here. Like, just go along with it. This is what you wanted when you worked for us. He also tells Thomas, oh yeah, so like we told you, you're immune, so that's fine. But there's some people in your group who are not immune. But let's all meet up with your friends, and we're gonna go take out your brain chips so you can get your memories back, and then we'll tell you who's not immune and who's got the flare and is gonna go crazy and start eating people soon. So of course, my favorite character, Newt, is not immune. Of course. So that's a great start to the book. It's all downhill from there. After they find that out, the Wicked people say, okay, now that you know that, you also have the choice if you want to get your memories back or not. And Thomas, Minho, and Newt decide nope, we don't want our memories back. You've messed with our brains enough. And the people who work for Wicked are like, okay, that's totally fine. Yeah, no big deal. Like, you have the choice. And then the next day they come in, they're like, actually, you don't have a choice. And they basically take them and try to like force them to get their brain chips out with the surgery. But then it happens to be that Brenda is the nurse that is going to help the surgeon take the brain chip out of Thomas's brain. And he's like, okay, are you evil? Are you good? What is going on here? Like, they took you away earlier and I haven't seen you since, and now suddenly you show up and you're working for them. And it turns out that Brenda actually is on their side, and she like sedates the surgeon instead, and then they manage to escape. Tom, Brenda, Minho, and Newt, they all escape out of there. They run and they go and get some weapons and everything, and then Brenda also has a chance to remind Thomas, like, okay, like, this is really stressful. If you are stressed out or have increased brain activity and you have the flare, it makes the flare work faster. And if you haven't noticed, Newt is pretty cranky and aggressive and just acting off. And it's probably because the flare is just working a lot faster in him because he's stressed out. Later in the day, after they've got their weapons, Newt comes and gives Thomas a letter and says, like, don't open this letter until you know the time is right, and you'll know when the time is right. So that's already like not a good sign. So once they get some weapons and everything, they're running around looking for their other group of friends. They can't find anybody. Like, there's no guards, their friends are gone. But then they find the guards all tied up in this room, and they're like, okay, they must have been tied up by our friends who just like went and escaped without us. So then they're like, all right, we need to get to the airport area so that we can find a Berg and escape. And when they get there, luckily, Jorge is there, and he's a pilot, so he has Berg, and they can escape out of there. Then, of course, just as they're escaping, all these soldiers happen to come up and are shooting at them and stuff, and then Thomas gets hit with this, like, bullet that's like an electrocution bullet, and so he gets kind of electrocuted by that. All manage to escape, all 4 of them, or 5 of them, and head off to wherever. And so they just leave, and then they go park, and they're like, okay, let's just, like, take a breather here, like, I turned off the tracking device for the Berg and everything, so like they can't follow us, and we'll just have a rest here and kind of formulate a plan. So they end up deciding to go to Denver because it turns out that there are some cities that have been walled off and are free of the flare, so you can go there and like there's not a bunch of cranks running around. It's totally fine to go there. So they decide to go there. Newt has the flare and he won't be allowed in, so let's just like leave him on the ship here, and we'll be back like tomorrow or tonight. So no big deal. Just when they walk in, this guy comes up to them. He passes them a note that says, you need to go to this building to find the right arm. And the note is from Gally, who is supposed to be dead because Thomas had thought that he killed him after Gally killed Chuck. But turns out he's not. Plot twist. Also, side note, they decided to go to Denver because there's a guy named Hans there who used to work for Wicked who can take out Thomas's brain chip and Minho's so that Wicked can't mind control them. Flash forward, they go and they meet up with Gally, and it turns out that Gally was being mind controlled by Wicked, and he had planned, like he was programmed to kill Thomas, so he just like threw the knife, and then Chuck jumped in front of Thomas, so like you can't really help that. And then Gally was like totally distraught and going crazy because he was like, I would never kill that kid. Like, I'd kill Thomas, but I wouldn't kill this innocent kid. And Wicked's like, okay, like just chill here with us in our headquarters. Then the Right Arm, which is that organization of kind of resistance fighters, goes and finds Gally and is like, all right, if you act totally nuts, they'll kick you out of here and then you'll be free. So you can come join us. So that's how he ends up in Denver. So Gally kind of tells the group, like, okay, so the Right Arm is just this organization. We're trying to take out Wicked. We got some people that used to work for Wicked. We know Wicked is trying to capture all the immune people in the city to start a second set of new trials, like put people back in the maze to start all over again because Thomas's group was a total failure. But then they also find out from Gally that, oh yeah, by the way, that Hans guy you're looking for, Wicked's also looking for him because they know you came here to find him. They're like, all right, let's go find this Hans guy first. So they eventually do find him, and he's able to remove the microchips from Thomas and Minho. And one thing that I didn't like was this part is that basically it just says Thomas gets all his memories back and he decides, okay, I'm not thinking of the past anymore. I'm just looking towards the future. So then you totally miss out on any of the background that could have been added into the story at that point, right? Like he has all his memories back and you don't know any of them. Like it just is like, yeah, he gets his memories back, but he's over it. So he just like wants to move on with his life and go forward with it. The only memory you do find out is how him and Teresa had to basically wipe out the entire Wicked staff because the flare got into the building and everybody's going nuts. So they had to like go and kill everybody and start fresh with a whole new staff. But after they go to the hands guy, then they go get some food. And of course, Thomas is an idiot, and there is a guy in the restaurant who is testing people for the flare. He has just this machine that looks in their eyes, and he finds somebody that has the flare, so he's like, all right, everybody has to get out, like panicking. And everybody else runs out, and Brenda's like, okay, we gotta like book it out of here. And Thomas is like standing there like an idiot, and then all of a sudden he's like, oh, I'm the only person left in the restaurant. And this like guard guy that is testing people is like, why are you still here? Like this guy's got the flare. Are you trying to get infected? And Thomas is like, oh, I'm immune. Like it's fine. And then the guy is like, oh really? Well, you can just stay here then for a minute. So then these other people come and take the guy with the flare away. The testing guy takes Thomas and tries to kidnap him, sell him to Wicked probably. He doesn't ever say, but he wants to sell him to somebody because he keeps talking about, oh, I'm gonna get a lot of money from you and stuff. And then just as Thomas is getting in his car, this police robot comes up and like shoots this guy. And then all of a sudden Jansen, who works for Wicked, his face shows up on this robot and is like, you know, Thomas, you need to come back because you're kind of our last hope here. Like you're the final candidate out of everybody we've tested in the maze. It's you. So you have to come back and you can get a cure for this flare. You can help your friend Newt. The police robot just leaves, which is like kind of shocking that it didn't just like, I don't know, some helicopter or something didn't just drop down and pick Thomas up and kidnap him. And then, but that didn't happen, so that's kind of nice. So then Thomas is able to go and find his friends again, and they decide, okay, it's like getting too dark out here and kind of creepy. Let's just find a motel and just stay the night and restart things in the morning. So in the morning, they decide, okay, let's like go check up on Newt first because, you know, he's got the flare, so let's see how things are going with him. And they're walking through the city and they just notice that there's like this one guy that's like eating something, some kind of animal or person potentially. And you're like, oh, that guy definitely has the flare. And then there's a couple other people just walking around that you're like, you seem kind of off. So they're like, something behind the scenes here is going on. Like this city is not as secure as they advertise it to be. So then they get to the airport, go in the Burg, and of course Newt has vanished. And they find a note from him that says they found him, and that means the guys that do the testing, they found Newt, and they're taking him to live with the Cranks. And then Brenda's like, oh yeah, they have these whole cities basically around each of the protected cities that are places where people that have the flare can go to like live out their good day until they get to like the gone point, and they then ship them off to the wilderness to go kill each other. And so they're like, okay, we need to like go there, we need to get Newt back. Like he can't go and just live in this crazy city. It's a good idea, except for that when you have all these people together that don't care about any of the rules or anything, because they're like, well, we're just gonna go crazy and die, so who cares what we do right now. And also we're kind of on the edge already, and you know, we're all at different stages of how bad we are for going crazy. So it's basically a trash situation that is, they have some guards that are immune people there, but they can't really do anything because people don't really care about breaking the rules or following the rules. So they find Newt, and of course he is like a little, like not totally wild, but you know, getting there, really aggressive. And he's like, why did you come here? Like, just leave me here. I'm just gonna go crazy and just, you know, join these other people that have the flare. Like, this is kind of where I belong. And then Minho was like, we can't just leave you here, like, with all these other crazy people. And they kind of get in, like, a bit of a fight. And then he's mad at Thomas because he's like, how dare you come here and try to save me? Like, kind of like, didn't you read the note that I left you? It's like Thomas just kind of forgets about the note before they go there. And then he's like, oh, I guess I should read the note later on. But he doesn't read it before they go. And he's like, wow, this, like, you know, he gets his feelings hurt by Newt saying these things. And he's like, okay, he's just like going crazy. Eventually things get a little too heated and they're like, okay, we have to leave. These other cranks are going to start killing us because we're causing a scene in here. Everybody's getting a little heated. We have to leave. So they end up leaving Newt there and feel horrible about it and get back on the Burg. And they're like, all right, I guess we just go back to Denver. When they're on their way back to Denver, Thomas, of course, remembers the note now, and he reads it, and it says, kill me. If you've ever been my friend, kill me. And he's like, well, that's great. Wish I would have known that sooner. But also, I'm not going to go kill my friend. Like, I can't do that. So then he's kind of just like, well, we can't go back to that place. He's just going to have to stay there and go crazy. And then while they're also at the Crank Palace, they find out that, like, Newt says, oh, I've joined this group of people. We're going to go head over to Denver tonight. It turns out that Denver is a ticking time bomb full of people that have the flare waiting to take over and start going wild. So basically, by the time Thomas and his group leave Newt and get back to Denver, the whole city is destroyed. And then these people come and kidnap this group. And again, like I said, the kidnapping thing is like pretty overdone in this book particularly. Like, they get kidnapped probably like 5 times. So it's a bit extreme. But yeah, they get kidnapped and taken to this building, and they find out that the Right Arm organization is the ones that have kidnapped them. And then they kind of take control of the guards and fight them, and they win over the weapons. And like, you need to take us to your boss because we need to figure out what's going on and we need to stop Wicked. We're all on the same side. Like, why are you capturing all these people that are immune? Then the one guard is like, all right, I will take you, but I'm only taking 2 of you. So Thomas and Brenda go with him, and they have to drive through like the crank infested city, and then they get kind of attacked in their vehicle, but then they make it through, and they meet up with Vince, who he's the big boss guy. And he basically says, yeah, we are planning to overthrow Wicked pretty soon here, and we've been capturing immunes to sell to Wicked so that we can infiltrate them and attack them. The only problem they have is that they have a device that has been created by them that will take out all the weapons, so they won't work anymore for Wicked. But they need to find a way to get this device to go inside the building so it can work its magic and shut off all the guns and stuff. And Thomas is like, so that's kind of where I come in, because they want me to come back and I can like pretend I'm going back to, you know, do my cure duties, and I will just plant this device and it'll start working to cancel out the weapons, and then you guys can come in and just save the day and take out Wicked, and it'll all work out great. So then the next day they head out to go to the airport, and they have to drive through the city again, so kind of sketchy still. So it's just Thomas, the pilot for the Burg, and the driver. So on the drive to the airport to go take Thomas to Wicked, they find Newt, and he's with his group of other cranks, and Thomas is like, hey, stop, like, I have to try one more time to like convince him, just come with us, we'll keep you safe, we can even tie you up if we need to, and it'll be fine, right? And so he goes out and tries talking to him, and Newt is just angry and miserable, and just tells Thomas, like, honor the note I left you. You've read it, you know that I want you to just kill me so I don't have to go through this and live as a crank and just go totally crazy and start eating people and everything like that. And Thomas is like, I can't kill my friend, I cannot do it. So then of course Newt is like, fine, if you don't kill me, I'm gonna kill you. So one of us is gonna die here, and I want it to be me. Just do it. So anyways, it's like they get in this fight and there's a lot of convincing, and so yeah, Thomas ends up shooting Newt and basically putting him out of his misery. And I remember the first time I read this book when I was a teenager, I probably cried about this for like a half an hour and I was just totally devastated. This time reading it, it's more so just like, you know, could you have just not wrote it like that? Almost like he doesn't look or anything at what he's done. He just gets back in the van. And here's the thing again, like I've said in my other videos, the emotionalness of the characters is pretty shallow because Thomas just gets back in the vehicle and he's like, I just need to sit here. I can't think about what I've done. I'm just focusing on the future again. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but if you had just done that, I don't know what you'd be reacting like, but it would probably just be something better than, yeah, I'm just so done with Wicked. I just need to go and focus on the future and get this over with. Thomas gets into the Wicked headquarters and they tell him, oh yeah, actually, you're gonna have to sacrifice yourself for the cause because we need to dissect your brain and it'll kill you. So if you could, you know, do that for us, that'd be great. And Thomas is like, oh my god, like I'm stuck here now. Hopefully the right arm shows up on time because they're gonna just start cutting into my brain. And so it's like, okay, like, can I just like have something to eat first? And I want to write some notes and I want to just, you know, have a break here and just, you know, process it before it starts to buy some time for the army to get there, just like save him basically. So then of course it's down to the wire and he's just getting wheeled into surgery when all of a sudden the bombs start going off in the place and sirens, and he's like, okay, they're here, like they made it. But then the surgeons are like, all right, let's just get to it because we don't got time to mess around. So then they put him under and you're like, oh man, what's gonna happen? And then it goes like a chapter of just him being unconscious kind of, and like what he's thinking, like, oh, I'm aware that this is happening, but I'm unconscious, so I can't do anything. And then the next chapter, it starts with he wakes up just as this woman is leaving his room, and it turns out that it's Chancellor Paige, who basically is the whole CEO kind of Wicked. And he finds a note from her and a map, and it says, this is a map of our complex here. You need to go get your immune friends and you need to tell the right arm to like stop doing what they're doing because you need to get the immunes and go through this flat trans and escape to this like safe haven that we've made because the trials are basically screwed. So Thomas is like, I don't know, I guess that's what I do. Like it seems legit and there's nothing else to do. So the right arm is bombing the place. Thomas runs, goes and tries to like get them to like hold off because we need to get the immunes out of like the building here. And they're like, okay, but like, you know, hurry up, like we're not waiting for our, that kind of thing. And so basically nothing comes to that conversation. Thomas does end up meeting up with a couple of his friends, like Brenda and Teresa and Minho, I think. And he's like, all right guys, like we need to go get the rest of the immunes and get on this flat trans and get out of here. So of course, Wicked has kept the other immunes, or the immunes that they've captured over the couple months there that they plan to use for the second phase of the trials, the new trials basically. They have them, of course, locked in the maze. So Thomas and his friends and stuff have to like go back to their old homestead and find all their friends again, and or not really they find a couple of their friends, but most of it is just these random immune people, like 200 or so people that happened to be captured by Wicked. And so they're like, all right, like let's get out of here, we gotta go on this flat trans, let's get moving, it'll take us to someplace safe, supposedly. So they escape, they have to fight off a griever or two. They follow the map to this old storage room that looks like it's nothing, and they find the flat trans in there, start sending people through. And then of course Jansen and some of the soldiers for Wicked show up again, and they're like, nope, you're coming with us. And they'd also realized earlier when they had a couple run-ins with Jansen that he has the flare because he's just like, you know, kind of nuts, kind of aggressive. And so they're like, all right, one last showdown. And Thomas ends up killing Jansen, he strangles him. and then they're, all right, let's go, like this place is falling apart because it's getting bombed. And so it's just like the last couple of them left to run through, and they're running towards the Flattrans, and you're like, all right, they're all gonna get through. And then a section of the ceiling starts falling towards Thomas, and Teresa jumps and pushes him out of the way, and the ceiling falls on her and crushes her, because Minho like hauls Thomas away and is like, sorry man, gotta get out of here. So then they escape through the Flattrans and are on to the other side, and it's all this nice like island, I think, probably with mountains and an ocean and nice grassy woods area. And Thomas is like, all right, well, seems safe for now, I guess, and the rest of the world can just do their own thing because I'm done. I'm finished. I've done my part. I'm not doing anything with the flare or the cure or anything. There's no cranks here. I'm staying here. I'm done. So then him and Teresa just go and watch the sunset, and Minho starts organizing people to, you know, find food and shelter and stuff like that for their little new home. And then that's the end. And then the epilogue, it's just like a memo for Wicked from Chancellor Paige, and it says, you know, we failed, but we also succeeded because, you know, we failed for the cure and the treatment for the flare, but we've succeeded in that the human race is going to survive, and that means that Wicked is good. And yeah, that is the end of the trilogy right then and there, and it's a good end. The book itself was a bit like dragged out with the kidnapping and the escaping and having to go back and forth to places and all that. And number one thing I didn't like is that they killed off Newt, because he was like my favorite character. I don't even know why. He just was like, you know, a good guy. So of course he had to be killed off. Teresa, I didn't really care, because she was so, like, you know, manipulative and evil and lying and telling the truth, and you couldn't trust her. And also it would really make things complicated with the whole Teresa Brenda thing, kind of. This book is kind of a tough one to say things that I liked about, besides just saying that in general it was a good wrap-up ending, you know, because there was more things that I didn't like about it. I did like that the characters stayed consistent. I liked that the ending was decent. It was good. I didn't mind the ending. And that Thomas didn't decide to just be like, yep, I'll sacrifice myself, you know, there's a cure, because chances are the cure would probably not work anyways. I don't know, I just feel like that would be a total failure, again, as everything else in the book has been. So yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on the good parts. It wasn't really anything spectacular, I thought. Things that I didn't like is, you know, killing off your favorite character in a book is just, it really puts a damper on things. Repetitive kidnapping and, you know, not really ever getting any answers to anything. You know, it was all kind of hazed over in this one, you know, because I feel like there is a lot of backstory, and I think he gets some of that in the prequel, but, you know, the part with Thomas getting his memory back wasn't even touched on at all. He's like, oh, got my memory back, remembered that we had to wipe out some of Wicked's staff, but that's kind of it. It was just not at the same level of adventure, keeping your interest as the first two books, but, you know, it was kind of the downward descent of the series. So, you know, it's kind of wrapping up towards the end. So you can't have everything be exciting, but yeah, I was just kind of busy with running back and forth with stuff. Overall though, really good series. Definitely read it. Even though you watch this video and know everything about it, still read it, because I want to know what you think of it from your own thoughts. Just leave those in the comments and give this video a like and subscribe if you want to stay tuned for my next book. The next book that I will be reviewing, it's called The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness, and that is going to be my next book review. It is a bit lengthy, so I will try to do it in 2 weeks. And so stay tuned for that. subscribe to stay in touch when that comes out. It'll be exciting because the movie is coming out March 5th. It'll be good because if you watch the movie, then you can watch my book review and you will know some of the facts that maybe the movie missed. But yeah, stay tuned for the Kill Order coming out later too. But we're going to switch over to this one for a little change of pace. And it'll be exciting. I'm excited for it. I haven't read this book in a while, so yeah, it'll be good. All right, thank you everybody for watching, and I will see you in my next video in a little bit here.